Hi, I'm Dr. Nancy Johnson, and welcome to a brief introduction to marketing research. Today we're going to define marketing research and understand why it's important, and to describe the 5 basic steps in conducting marketing research. So what exactly is marketing research? We've all been a part of it, even though we may not have realized that we are. If someone stopped you when you were leaving a store, or even while you were checking out, and said, hey, if you take our online survey, then you could win $1,000. You could potentially win $1,000 to spend in our store. If you went online and you took that survey, then you were participating in marketing research. So the definition of marketing research is it's the systematic design, collection, interpretation, and reporting of information to help marketers solve specific marketing problems or to take advantage of marketing opportunities. There are numerous benefits of marketing research. First of all, it gives us the information that we need to make better decisions. So it improves the marketer's ability to make decisions. And it helps to determine a feasibility of a strategy. So you may have seen, for an example, a restaurant come up with a new concept and they only launch it in one market. That launching of that strategy in that one market is basically market research, because they're testing the feasibility of that strategy. If it works in that market, then they can roll it out to all of the other markets that the business is in. It also facilitates strategic planning. So in my previous example, you can see that if market research showed that the strategy was a success, then we can strategically plan to roll that out to all of our markets. It helps us to assess opportunities and threats and ascertain potential. The 5 steps of the marketing research process are: Step 1, locating and defining issues or problems. Step 2, designing the research project. Step 3, collecting data. Step 4, interpreting the research findings. Step 5, reporting the research findings. Let's take a look at Step 1, locating and defining problems or research issues. Typically those come from some data that we're already collecting, whether it's customer service surveys or sales reports. But typically there's a sign of a problem that is a departure from our normal or expected results. So we're trying to uncover the nature and the boundaries of the situation. So why are sales down? Why are our customers not happy? What's going on? So in this step, we define the problem, and this is where we're designing the research, which should be in depth to uncover whatever the situation is. Here's a great video to help you understand more about developing a problem statement for marketing research, presented by ChangeEdge.
A good problem statement should include key elements. At a minimum, a problem statement should include what is the problem or defect, the magnitude of the problem, where is the problem occurring, and finally, why is it important to work on this problem? Here is an example problem statement. Does it contain the 4 basic elements of a problem statement? Let's find out. What is the problem? In this case, the problem is pizza delivery times are averaging 38 minutes on Friday and Saturday nights. What is the magnitude of the problem? In this case, 20% of the pizzas are being delivered late. Where is the problem? The problem is located at the West Side Pizza delivery location. And then why is this problem important? It is important to increase revenue and customer satisfaction. In this case, all 4 critical components are included in this problem statement.
After narrowing down the problem, that's really when we have to move into research design. So that's our overall plan for obtaining the information needed to address our problem or issue. If we're using quantitative research, then we would develop a hypothesis, which is an informed guess or assumption about the problem or set of circumstances. And because it's quantitative, then our results will allow us to either accept or reject the hypotheses. As I mentioned before, there is quantitative research, which has hypotheses, but there's also qualitative research. Qualitative research is more exploratory in nature. So if you were to be stopped on the street and asked questions about how you feel about things, or what you like, what you don't like, what your beliefs are, anything that you can expand upon, then that is considered qualitative research or exploratory research. If you were to stop and be asked to take a survey where you were to select a number on a Likert scale that you very much agree, very much disagree, and you're going to select a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, that is considered quantitative research or conclusive research. And that is where you will have a hypothesis to either accept or reject the hypothesis after your analysis. So let's take a look at the differences between exploratory or qualitative research and conclusive or quantitative research. We'll look at the different research project components and compare exploratory versus conclusive. So the research purpose in exploratory is just to generate insights about a situation. So if your sales are down and you don't really know why, then you might use exploratory research to get a sense of what's going on. With conclusive research, the research purpose is very specific. You may know that there's a specific problem and you want to get people's very specific responses to very specific questions. The data needs for exploratory research are pretty vague because there's a lot of open-ended questions. Researchers want to know how you feel, what you think. In conclusive research, the data needs are very clear. The data sources for exploratory research are ill-defined because you're just trying to figure out what's going on. Conclusive research, they're very well-defined. Data collection in exploratory research is, as I mentioned before, very open-ended, very rough. Just you're getting a sense of what's going on. And in conclusive research, it's usually very structured. The sample in exploratory research can be relatively small. They can be very specifically selected based on their experiences. Conclusive research, you want a larger sample size for your data to be and your findings to be more objective and to create a generalization of your findings. Data collection in exploratory research is flexible. There's really no set procedure. You typically have guiding questions. In conclusive research, it's more rigid and well laid out. And your data analysis is non-quantitative in exploratory research. And in conclusive research, it's typically quantitative. The inferences and recommendations in exploratory research are more tentative than final, and in conclusive research, they're more final than tentative. As with any research, there's the question of reliability and validity. So what is reliability and validity? Reliability is a condition that exists when the research technique produces almost identical results in repeated trials. So we see that a lot in drug trials, right? Where is it the same results? Are there same results collected? For validity, that's a condition where the research method is actually measuring what it's supposed to measure. If you do not have validity in your research, then you may think that you're gathering data on one thing when you're really gathering data on another thing. So in any kind of research, you need both reliability and validity. Step 3 in marketing research is collecting data. There are two types of data that you can collect. The first is primary data. Primary data is data that you collect directly from respondents. So it is original data that is collected just for this research project. Secondary data, on the other hand, is compiled from sources both inside and outside of the organization, and it was collected for some other purpose other than this current research. So it could be sales reports, it could be industry data, there could be a lot of outside data that you could use as secondary data. Interpreting your research findings is step number 4. Now you have to consider, did you do conclusive or quantitative research? If that's the type of research that you did, then the data must be analyzed using statistical analysis software. And that statistical interpretation then would focus on what is typical and what deviates from the average. If you did exploratory or qualitative research, then the data must be categorized and interpreted. In either case, the data requires very careful interpretation. Step number 5 is reporting your research findings. Your reports must be clear and concise. They must identify any assumptions and limitations of the research. Because we're all human, we have biases. Even researchers have biases. Research and the research itself makes assumptions, and there are limitations of the research. All of that must be spelled out clearly and concisely for the people that are reading the research outcomes. Managers must understand the research results. This goes back to being clear and concise, using lots of graphics, lots of tables, any kind of tool that helps managers relate to the context and permits effective decision making. That is the ultimate goal of the research, right? Is to make effective decision making. So that concludes the 5 steps of the marketing research process and a brief introduction into marketing research. I'm Dr. Nancy Johnson. Thanks for joining me.